Well, greetings, everyone. Thanks for coming back to Middle Earth with all of us, and welcome to the Rings of Power Aftershow. This is brought to you today by Mint Mobile, so thank you to Mint Mobile. I'm Kris Carr. I'm going to be trying to help us get through this today, and joining me to make sure I stay on track is Amy Newman. Amy, how you doing?
Oh, great. Excited to be here. Don't remember anybody's name. Just going to be straight up front with you all right now.
Just Rings of Powered through 3 episodes.
Yeah, I watched them all in one night. I had not caught up. So if I'm like halfway through describing something that was episode 2, just everybody be nice and smile and nod with me.
Give a little grace. The guys are over at D23 today, so Amy is being very, very sweet and filling in for us today on something she wasn't scheduled to do. So I appreciate you, Amy. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Amen. Well, let's just talk about general thoughts then on this. We'll try to separate it out for you. This is a full open spoiler discussion too, y'all. So if you have not seen this episode yet, make sure that you just come back to this video later. I don't want y'all in the chat being like, spoilers. That's the whole point. That's why we're doing this show.
Yes.
So let's get into it then. Amy, what were your big takeaways from this episode? How did you feel about this? I know the first 2 episodes, there have been some pacing issues and things. How'd you feel about 3 once you got to it?
I like that we're picking up the pacing a little bit. Certainly, I think 2 and 3, I enjoyed more generally than 1. I think I'm sort of with the general consensus here that 1 just felt like a lot of setup. It was pretty setup, but it was setup. 2 and 3 started hitting the gas for me a bit more. Maybe it's because I watched them back to back. I think I liked the 2 on about the same level. My biggest complaint is that it just feels like we keep throwing new things into the pot. And I want a little more time really delving in. I agree that the pacing feels a little slow. So it feels like the time we get, we're not establishing as much as I'd like necessarily. And I feel like there were things we really didn't touch on this episode. I could be misremembered, but I don't think we saw Bronwyn and her son at all.
We didn't see Bronwyn or Theo at all.
And that felt like such a huge thing at the end of the last episode, that to not even get, an end of the episode like, oh, did you forget about this? So then when suddenly we're bringing in, that new family, the dad with the 2 children, I was sort of going, no more. Explain everything that's happening first before we bring in new stuff. I trust that they're going somewhere with all of this, that it is going, it's starting to, the soup's starting to thicken a little. It's starting to congeal a bit in a good way, but feeling just a scoosh overwhelmed.
Yeah, I did think it was odd that we didn't see any of Bronwyn or Theo, especially because, we have Arondir getting taken by the orcs, which we saw at the end of the 2nd episode, right? Being pulled in there. And that was all really compelling, although we have so many dead elves right now. So many dead elves who I had just come to love. I was a fan of his friend. I really liked them.
I liked them, but it was like, okay, didn't learn their names, don't have to now.
This is true. I was just like, I like the sassy one and the bossy one. Yeah. This is fun. I made them Spice Girls in my mind. I was like, this one's sassy elf and this one's posh.
Yeah.
But I am really intrigued with what's going on there. Obviously, we have Arondir trying to fight his way out. We have a warg come into play. We're dealing with these orcs using the elves as slaves to get through some stuff, cutting down trees, mowing through some stuff.
We never got back to the like Pulp Fiction briefcase that the dwarves have.
Yes.
Like there's so many, they're setting up so many questions, and it is all such kind of high fantasy. Like I said, I feel like all my Lord of the Rings love is sort of through osmosis of just growing up and having a bunch of friends and family who adored it.
Yeah.
And it's like I think I've seen most of the movies kind of pieced together, but I'm not a huge fan. So there is a definite stop bringing up questions. And especially for those of us who maybe don't have as deep a knowledge of the lore, at the end of the day, you're putting this level of money into this. I feel like they should have worked just a little harder. And I understand it's a damn hard, balancing act to hit. But finding that balance between, giving the diehard, Tolkien fans who know all the lore, who know all the backstory. I understand it's difficult, but trying to give them what they want. But I was also thinking about it's like how many Gen Zers didn't grow up on Lord of the Rings, might not be super familiar, but you're pumping this level of budget into it. So how do you make that accessible for both camps?
It's a great point. And it's so many storylines to juggle. This is why I'm glad you're here too, just to balance out my general enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Because as I've said on here before too, I love The Lord of the Rings. However, when it comes to Tolkien, I am not a, theologian by any means. I know some of the lore. I'm going to probably get a few names mispronounced. Y'all, this Texas accent doesn't work well with, Elvish. But I do think there is a balancing act that the show really has to strike. That's a really, really delicate walk, There were some really cool things in this. I was a really big fan. I did love the Elvish orc fight. I thought that was all really intense and felt Lord of the Rings.
Yes, I will say the Halbrand fight,
that felt a lot.
It felt not quite Lord of the Rings, and not that there isn't violence in this, but like I think we were talking earlier, like the blood splatter on the camera, it did feel like suddenly
arm break.
It suddenly felt like I was thrust into Game of Thrones, and not that you can't have violence, it just felt a little much, a little tonally whiplashy for me.
It felt odd. Well, and let's talk about that Halbrand thing for a moment too, because we learned some things about him in this episode. But it did take a while for us to learn them.
Yes.
Right? We have him. We know he wants to be like in the forge, making things. He goes to take that guild crest. And by doing so, he first, is antagonistic to a group, talks mad shit about like taking their women, switches over to buying them drinks, buttering them up, sleight of hand taking that guild crest, boogieing on out. And we have this whole big scene to get to. Hey, I know you took that. We're going to go back to fighting. And then we have that very aggressive fight. And ultimately, Halbrand ends up back in the clink.
Yeah. And I like finding out more about him. I think the strongest stuff of his arc this episode was that conversation, I think it was with Galadriel, where you actually kind of find out where this guy came from and who he is. And I thought all that was really interesting because I like this character a lot. And I like sort of this weird dynamic he has with Galadriel. But yeah, I agree. It took kind of a long time to get there.
Well, and he and Galadriel right now, and I'm sorry if I'm reading too much into this, but every moment where they interact, I'm just
sexual tension.
Yeah, they
so very much.
It's just all bedroom eyes.
But then Daddy shows up.
That's true. We do.
There was some tension there too.
We have our Elvish friend show up,
and not this Daddy.
What? That's not Daddy.
That's not Daddy. That's not Daddy Taylor. No.
No, Daddy was bear with me.
Oh, Illidan or something?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, y'all. There's so many names.
There's so many.
But I think his name too has to go back to like the light that Galadriel has. Please correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I'm just all gobbledygook in my brain right now. But we have him and his son, Isildur, right? Who ultimately we know is not going to cast the ring into the fire. And there's all this stuff with him and his sister as well. We learn Elendil. Thank you so much, y'all. Thank you very, very much, Chad. I appreciate you. So we have that storyline going. And then, Galadriel seems to have a bond with
I'm
him.
calling him Zaddy, but thank you for your help,
Zaddy is
Chad.
totally fine. I love that. And his name is, he who loves stars, but also elf, friend of elves or something of that nature, which leads to some issues with the Queen Regent.
But yeah, I'm just like, Galadriel's got her options.
She does. She does. And I'm interested in the whole Halbrand storyline here of him being this lost king of sorts, right? Because then ultimately, does that mean he's part of those Nazgul kings that we eventually see in The Lord of the Rings? Is he the Witch King ultimately? Because that'd be really, really cool.
Yeah.
I know there's theories about him ultimately being Sauron the Deceiver since he's a shapeshifter. And then that way the sting of betrayal that Galadriel feels is much more intense. So there's a lot of options here. Or he could just be, this kind of shitty man baby who sometimes helps out his elf friend.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on with him. We also checked back in with our Harfoots.
Personally, my favorite storyline.
Why is that?
I think it just feels the most... It feels a little anchoring. I saw a really good point that said, like, they serve sort of a similar purpose to seeing some of the, like, the Shire and some of that. Like, a little more what you're looking at and going, oh, here are the stakes. Here are, like, the families. Here's sort of... And I like the Harfoots just generally. Like, I thought... I thought they're sort of paying homage to the lost, the ones they lost was like kind of touching and interesting. I think the stuff with the kids is really kind of charming and fun. I'm not as crazy about the whole mystery with the stranger, but the characters surrounding that I do really like. And it just feels kind of like the most emotionally grounding thing of just this very real, somebody's injured, we have to migrate, what do we do?
Exactly.
That really worked for me.
It's a very high stakes thing for something that, seems like such a menial problem, but ultimately in that world, it'd be so horrible.
Yeah.
And I know we were talking about this off camera, but the paying tribute part and learning so much about Poppy in that moment.
Yeah.
And kudos to that actress too, of just really, really delivering on that scene, learning that her entire family was just taken out in a landslide. And that gives us so much more reason of why she is so concerned with Nori taking risks and not following the ways of their clan and everything. And it made so much more sense of why she's not just invested in her best friend because she's her best friend, but because she's all she has left.
Yeah.
I thought that was all really, really beautifully told. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that I'm missing more from some of the other storylines, is that those stakes and those connections with one another.
Just a real human emotional grounding.
Yeah, because like you brought up the Pulp Fiction case, which I love that description. I felt Durin's absence. I felt Elrond's absence because Elrond in particular, I think, just does a great job making everyone he has a scene with feel very like seen and loved and believed.
Yeah.
And that's what I want more of in this.
I thought the stuff with Durin and Disa was pretty much a series highlight for me so far.
Yeah.
Just, again, so human, so interesting. I loved just, again, the reality. I'm always a big fan of just like, what is the actual emotional reality of this? Not just, there's elves and there's this and there was a war and not that isn't real, but human things just like, hey, 20 years isn't a long time for you. You've missed a significant chunk of my life as my friend and that hurts.
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff I connect with. And that's the stuff, it's sort of that and the settings. I feel like are the two things that really keep me wanting to stay in this world.
Yeah.
There are things I frankly find boring. There are things I find hard to follow, if I'm being 100% honest. But I think those two at its core, the world is just so pretty.
Well, I mean, going into Numenor is
gorgeous.
Stunning. I mean, everything you see there, the tree and everything too is just so beautiful and iconic. And you do see the budget in those moments, right?
Oh God, yes.
It's beautiful. We just still are having these kinds of pacing issues though. And again, I say this as somebody who's probably way too invested in the show and happy about everything, but just some of the pacing feels a little off. We talked about off camera too, the horse riding scene. Like, that just felt weird.
It felt very like, whoopsie, we didn't get the footage we needed. Let's just stretch what we can get out of this.
Yeah.
It kind of made me cringe. And it felt like it should be this gorgeous, majestic moment. Again, you've shown us you have the budget to have like, I wanted like a drone shot of them like riding these horses like, down the beach kind of thing. And yeah, it just did not work for me. And it did just feel a little, it's that funny thing because like I said, I watched a bunch in a row. And after, hour 2.5 or so of TV, you start zoning out a little. And it does feel like one of those shows where you can zone out for a couple minutes. At one point, I kind of zoned out, zoned back in, wound it back and went, I didn't miss anything. Somehow, in the 3 to 5 minutes that I kind of got a little distracted, I didn't really feel like I missed anything. I could have just come back in and picked up like, yeah, I get it.
That's fair.
But then I feel lost about other things. So it's just this weird pacing. You're throwing so much at me. But then when you actually do settle in on something, it does feel like you're almost spending too much time and spinning, sound like a Harfoot, spinning your wheels, spinning your cartwheels.
Ooh.
They love their little wheel metaphors.
Well done. Well done. I will say what I think the horse scene was supposed to achieve, and there were moments of it, right, is that just that missed being out like on a horse in the wild, being free, having Galadriel feel joy instead of just being singularly focused on her mission.
Yeah.
That's really nice. And it's great to see her now not being so, one single-minded with her pursuit, right? I have to get out of this town. I have to do this. I have to go do these things. She seems like she is now maybe making a game plan, maybe taking her time a bit more of, okay, I can take a moment, I can breathe. And then I can formulate what I actually need to do, because that seems to have been part of her problem. And this is probably part of the whole character arc, right? We've so many hundreds of years to get to where we need to be going, of just, she's so impetuous. And for somebody who has so much time, she's so impatient. And I find that to be a really, really interesting character trait of hers and character flaw. I just wish that we started exploring it a little different. I know we're only 3 episodes in, but I'm hoping we get a few more flavors out of her.
It's just between that and how much we have going on. I just almost don't feel like we have a protagonist. I know she's our protagonist, but I just feel like, I just haven't quite locked in with her yet. Because I just feel like anytime I'm getting invested in that story, it's like, we have like 4 other things to do this episode.
Exactly. And we do leave off with a lot of things happening, right? We know that the elves are still going to be, held by the orcs, and we have the introduction of Adder, who we only see kind of like vaguely in the shadows. Oh, look at that crisp image. Thanks, Taylor. Fun fact, this is the same actor who played Benji Stark on Game of Thrones. So still working within that fantasy realm and everything. This is another character, too, who people are speculating, is this going to be, Sauron in hiding or something like that? Which for me feels a little odd of why you would be like the leader of this group of evil in hiding. I feel like this is another lackey. I feel like we haven't gotten to our mega boss yet. Yeah. We're not in that final stage. But I'm interested to see what Adder has going on. Any theories? Any thoughts? Nah.
I just don't feel like I know enough to venture a theory because it would be such a like.
Do you think he's a man?
Do I think Sauron's a man?
No, do you think Adar, the little shifty thing we saw here, do you think it's a man or an orc?
I think it's Mephisto.
Yeah! There he is. I'm so excited.
There it is.
He's in everything, and I see him everywhere.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We also are going to have the Harfoots continue on their pilgrimage. The stranger is joining them. We're going to see how that affects their way of life since, Nori and her family almost got kicked out, which thank you guys for going, she's a child. Maybe we don't abandon her in the woods. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah. It was interesting for such the community that does feel like the heart of it. It's like, oh, y'all can be a little shitty.
Yeah. You guys have some rough rules. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Which I guess, but also gotta survive.
Yeah. And then obviously we will continue to see more with Isildur, with Halbrand, and with Galadriel too. But I'm interested to see where we're taking shape here. It feels like the players are finally where they need to be for the story to actually really, really launch.
Yeah. Yeah, because how many episodes are we getting of this?
This is a 10-episode season?
I think it's 8.
Is it 8? Hour long though. And then it's going to be a total of 5 seasons, I believe.
Each season after this is more than 8, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But just does not feel like we're almost to a halfway point.
Same.
Feels like we're still almost in exposition land in a way that doesn't quite comfort me as an audience member.
That's a fair assessment. Well, guys, in just a moment, we are going to get to your thoughts and feelings on this. We've got those super chats open, so hit us up. But before we do that, we are going to take a moment to listen to our sponsor once again, the good folks over at Mint Mobile.
We want to take a second and thank the sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of the retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. And guys, I have been using Mint Mobile for months now, and I could not be more thrilled with the service. I also couldn't be more thrilled with the fact that my phone bill now is literally 1/3 of what it used to be with my previous major carrier. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea.
And thank you once again to Mint Mobile and our overlord, Ryan Reynolds. Gosh, we appreciate you, Ryan. All right, let's get to these super chats, y'all. Amy, what do we have?
Our first super chat comes to us from Are we starting at Fredo?
Alex von Gollum.
Oh, thank you. Alex von Gollum says, my favorite part of the series is how beautiful the landscapes are, particularly Numenor. I'm more and more in awe with the cinematography, finally feeling so crazy excited for the new episodes. Yay!
Oh, Alex, I'm so glad you're hyped about these now. And it is beautiful.
Numenor was an
Stunning.
absolute highlight. Well, I feel like I'm so thankful because that first episode, that shot as they come over the hill was so stunning. And I'm glad that wasn't like that was the budget.
We showed you that. Now tuck in. We're only going to be at sea.
Yeah.
No, Numenor was beautiful. I'm so happy you're enjoying the show now. Yeah, this was a fun one to me, even though I'm criticizing this episode, right? And I just feel like I also have to be a bit more critical because I don't have Rob or John to fight me. But I do think that there's a lot of good stuff happening here.
Yes.
So I'm glad you do too.
A-Rod 2006 said, Cynthia Adai Robinson glowing up from being Amanda Waller in Arrow to now a regal queen in Rings of Power. Love it for her.
She was Amanda Waller in Arrow. Oh, damn. I forgot about that. Yeah, she's great.
She was very good in this.
Oh, man. Powerful.
Sam Fisher.
Sorry, another Alex von Gollum.
Oh, thank you. Alex von Gollum says, I just read about a theory that Halbrand, the dude that saved Galadriel, is Sauron. That'd be crazy. I started to ship him and Galadriel. LOL. You and me both, Alex.
I mean, he could still be a bad man, and they could still get together.
I could have swore I saw in a preview of like the episodes coming up in the trailer. He's on a horseback with a spear, though, fighting.
Spoilers.
See, and this is why I do think ultimately he's going to be one of those kings that, is one of the kings of men who disappoints, or maybe even the Witch King or something like that,
I want him to be like unlikely hero vibe of sort of,
That'd be nice.
Is he going to help? Is he not going to help? Is this the good guy? Is this kind of ends up helping save the day kind of guy?
That'd be nice.
Sam Fisher said, I was not expecting Halbrand to be like an Aragorn-like figure, descendant of an ancient king that united the Southland and will reunite them again. Can you scroll up just a scoosh for me, please?
Oh.
But now even more, I think he will turn out to be the Witch King of Angmar.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards too. I don't know. I mean, time will tell, but I feel like that king reveal wasn't so much of he will unite us. It's, this is going to get very upsetting for a lot of people.
Suthius said, roses are red, violets are blue. Mr. C and Mr. B are venturing to D23. Kris, how about you?
You know what? Ultimately, I'm going to have a better time because we're getting drinks after this. So
At the cemetery.
drinks.
Hey, I get to drive by Disney Studios every day on my commute. Is that like D23?
That's just like D23,
It's roughly the
Jonathan.
same
You're doing great.
Cool.
Yeah. You're not missing anything.
We should get drunk and watch the footage and live stream.
There we go. Just listen, Mr. Chapek. You're giving away a lot of Starbucks cups that I'm not impressed.
Oh, that Starbucks cup was ugly. Sam Fisher said, might be strange to say, but I thought Galadriel's face was twisted in a very weird way and not an attractive way in the slow-mo shot.
I mean, beauty is subjective, but that is also like objectively one of the prettiest human beings I've ever seen in my life. So
It's also pretty hard to ride a horse pretty, and
Yeah.
also like slow-mo any footage of you doing anything down and see how good you look.
yeah, I never have been like, man, I really wish Viggo Mortensen looked better on that horse. Why is his face like that?
No
I don't know.
complaints. No complaints. Duan William said, not sure how I feel about the idea of Numenorians being loyal to the elves. They owed loyalty to the Valars. Used to anyway, but never to the elves.
I mean, that's a fair criticism. But again, this all comes down to perspective, right? Because in Galadriel's mind, absolutely, like, fealty is owned here because they made everything possible for them. Whereas, these other folks may believe it is the more godlike entities who gave them what they had, and that the elves, that's kind of the vibe this whole show is the elves think far too highly of them to many of mankind's eyes.
Yeah, nobody copied to see the elves, huh?
No, they're all like, these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Even in The Hobbit, in Lord of the Rings, it's always been an adversarial.
They've always been uppity. So that is that's an issue I take too with Rob whenever he's like, these elves are punks. Yeah.
Elves are punks.
They're punks. They're better than you.
That's what they do. Duan William also says, some background. The Valars?
The Valar.
Valar.
Yeah. It's okay, however you want to say it.
Make my own rules, baby.
Yeah.
What's Tolkien going to do? Stop me? The Valars granted the Numenorians longer life, 300 years, but denied them immortality, for the mortality of men was the gift of Eru. Yeah. This proved to be a mistake as the Numenorians grew bitter, being able to taste immortality but never possess it. And so they banished the elves and spoke no more of the Valars.
Yeah, there we go. So that's why we have this beef. Thank you, Dwan. We appreciate you for that bit of lore.
Sam Fisher said, really liked the shout out to Elros this episode. I want that tapestry of Elrond, Elros, and Numenor's founding as a poster.
I thought that was cute.
That was a cool moment.
Yeah, I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
It was a sweet little thing. And again, it made me go, oh, Galadriel, this is when I like you a lot because of your buddy.
Yeah. Dwan William says, this episode did much to assuage my anxiety. We finally got some hints of higher order mythology, which were disturbingly missing in the first 2 episodes.
Well, Dwan, you have been writing in as somebody who seems very keyed into the mythology of the world, so I'm really glad that this is hitting for you now. I do want to just, gentle reminder, right? Shows are very different than movies and films and television, right? So I know that you're very, very, you're very in love with this mythology, and as you should be, but also just give yourself and the show creators a little grace, and that way you can watch it for what it is and enjoy it a little bit more. But I'm glad it's hitting a little better for you now.
Dwan Williams says, on the issue of elven immortality, John raised last week. Unlike men, elven spirits are immortal. They return to Valinor on death and are rebodied. But the Noldors, the branch of elf Gil-galad, Galadriel, Elrond, etc., belong to in Middle-earth, are sent to the halls of Mandos, where they linger bodiless for eternity, languishing in guilt and regret. Know that feeling. This is their punishment for their treason, hubris, and kinslaying. There were only 2 Noldori who were released from the Hall of Mandos, Finrod and Glorfindel.
Ooh, all right.
Noldors are granted the right to return and seek forgiveness after Morgoth's defeat, but if they die before they make it to the throne of Manwë, they still get sent to Mandos.
Man.
Better stay alive.
Yeah. Don't get dead.
I will say, this is all very interesting. Thank you for sharing all of that. I'm 90% sure Glorfindel is like made the fuck up. Like that just feels like me panicking and trying to. Who's your favorite Lord of the Rings character?
Glorfindel.
Glorfindel.
That's fair. That's fair.
Every once in a while I hit a name where I'm just like, no.
Oh man, that mythology though. Thank you for putting that in there.
Super interesting.
That was very helpful. But also, it gave me like cold sweats of being back at like catechism of like, oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen if I'm not a good person and I'm going to die.
When again, so much of that stuff, and it, like I said, I kind of wish there was a little more focus on 1 or 2 plot lines because I don't know all this stuff. And even reading that, it's like, this is really interesting. Like each branch of this, world building has so much to it that I almost wish we were a little more focused in on like, let's say, Galadriel, and then you treat the Harfoots as your plot B, and you can really dig into that world building. So someone who's coming in not knowing it, you have time to explore more of that. I would love that because that's fascinating, and I didn't know any of it. Mm-hmm. Where's Glorfindel? Show him to me. Sam Fisher wants to know, where were Elrond and Durin during the episode? They've been the best part of the series so far. Really missed them this week. Didn't miss Theo and Bronwyn.
I was just kind of confused about Theo and Bronwyn, where I was like, am I going to figure out
that sword thing was going to be important?
Important. But Durin and Elrond, though, I was like, man, I love those bros. I want them.
Yeah.
I want that story.
Yeah. And again, another one where it was like they were setting up something where you're like, what is this? What are they referring to? What is, what is in their briefcase?
Yeah.
Like, I need to know. And then, you don't even see them.
Hopefully that's next week's episode.
Too many plots.
Yeah.
They're all interesting-ish, but they would be more interesting if you could dig into one.
Yeah.
Sam Fisher said, I like Galadriel the most I have in this episode.
Oh, yeah. Nice. I'm glad she worked for you in this one, Sam. That's great.
Milo Murphy said, John, when you meet Weird Al, ask him about Milo Murphy's Law. Al voices Milo. It's an amazing show, and I'm still waiting for the 3rd season.
Well, we'll just text that
that
to John.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's going to be so nervous.
Yeah.
He's not going to remember
I don't think he's going to be able to
I don't think he's coming into work on Monday.
No. He's just going to be like,
Yeah.
yeah.
taking a moment. Sam Fisher said, maybe it's just me, but the Harfoot's treatment of is the Harfoot's treatment of Brandyfoot's too harsh? Shouldn't Nori be rewarded for wanting to help someone in need?
So, Sam, yeah. I mean, in theory, right? We all want to help other people. But yeah, by our standards. But we had in that first episode, too, that the Harfoots do not interact with other peoples or creatures or anything. They are migrants. They keep to themselves. They are not part of the larger story is literally one of the big points of contention for Nori but shouldn't my life be bigger than this?
Yeah.
Shouldn't I help when people need help? Shouldn't I do other things for other people?
Someone said it feels very part of your world. Like those early conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam Fisher also said, and I do like that Halbrand is more the reluctant hero like movie Aragon versus book Aragon, who felt like he was just waiting for the prophesied moment. Prophesied.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Like I said, I love me a reluctant hero. I hope that's where they go with it. I don't know if it will be. Again, I don't know enough. I feel like I don't know enough to make any accurate predictions, anywhere near accurate predictions.
But you can say what you hope to see.
That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Then he takes his shirt off and kisses Galadriel.
Ooh.
That's what I hope to see. Dwan Williams said, I think the issue is not that it's setting up too much lore. It's that it's setting up lore they are inventing rather than lore that's already there.
I mean, definitely that can be an issue
interesting.
since they don't have the rights to some of this. So there is some skirting around some things. But again, I don't think you need to have a deep dive into the lore for this to be a good show. I think you need to do good storytelling and plot points. And those don't necessarily have to all be steeped in layers and layers of mythology.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that can come from grounded human stories.
Yeah.
And then you pepper in all that other stuff. Because, and I know the comparison is annoying, but when you do look at something like House of the Dragon, it's a great political familial drama when you take away everything else. And I know that Lord of the Rings is the blueprint, as you really brilliantly said the other day on the show, of all fantasy as we know it. So it's harder to take away those fantastical elements. But that's what we expect, though, now from a modern story.
Yeah.
So when you do a hybrid like this, when you adapt something like this, yes, you have to pay tribute to the source material. Yes, you have to honor it. But then also you still have to have some modern storytelling thrown in there for your modern audience's consumption.
Yeah.
Kris, for somebody like me who doesn't really know about the rights issues that they're having, would you say it's kind of like Blood and Honey, where they have the rights to Pooh, but not to Tigger, not to the red shirt with no pants? Is it kind of like that?
Oh my God, almost in a way. And I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, they have they have limited rights. And also,
Yeah.
Silmarillion it's a history.
It is.
So if you just stuck to that, this would just be a pure history. You can do that on YouTube.
Exactly.
There's Silmarillion history videos. can watch.
You have to think of it as a series of footnotes, basically, too. And that's most of what this was. Tolkien was a huge history nerd and linguist. And that's what so much of these books was about, was literally building languages, taking World War I and II and looking at them and examining them and giving them this kind of mythology and scope to deal with them and also present a historical take on them. It's not pure fantasy as we all know it. When you go open a book by somebody right now, it really feels like a historical text. That's really great, Jonathan.
Bet you didn't think you were going to hear about Pooh, Blood, and Honey today.
I didn't, but you know what? There's always a way.
Tim Platt said, I will give this show one more episode to pick up steam before tapping out for a while. Too slow for me, but I love the visuals and everything about the elves and Sauron. So there are things I like. I want to try that again and put this. I love the little stink Galadriel puts on it every time. Her little Sauron. Like it's always really good.
Ooh, that was nice.
Thank you.
I like it.
Her nose.
Yeah.
Her upper lip and tip of her nose come down. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
She puts just the right amount of stank.
A little bit of stank on there. But hey, Tim, that's totally fair. And good for you for giving the show the good old college try. You can always come back to it if you want to tap out for a while. No big deal.
Alex Von Gollum said, I'm wondering how the show will cover all the events that should happen prior to the Lord of the Rings 1 prologue. Sauron's supposed craft supposed to craft his ring, corrupt the king of Numenor, create his army in Mordor, and we've just met Elendil and Isildur. Isildur.
Yeah.
I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Did all this happen in less than 100 years?
Oh, Jonathan, you were doing this timetable this morning of trying to map everything out.
Compressed timetable.
Yeah.
That second age lasts over 3,000 years. from the period where they cut off the ring from Sauron, his hand, and Isildur walks off with the ring. So I was really shocked to see Isildur on here. It's like, that's like 3,000 years.
Yeah.
This is a very compressed timetable here.
Interesting. Duan Williams said, interestingly, all my friends in the Tolkien Discord collectively agree that the best solution to Harfoot is genocide by Balrogs.
Whoa.
Damn.
Man, your Discord is harsh. Shit.
5 seconds, you just have to breathe on them.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I mean, and there's 2 other sects of pre-hobbits. I'm trying to remember what their names are, but there's 3 different types. But I don't know. I don't want all the Harfoots to die. Oh my God. I want them to just
I
evolve.
just want them to wash their faces, that's all.
They should grab some Dawn soap and they can just give it a quick little scrub. They'd be fine.
Bro, I got a makeup remover in my bag. You need
Yeah.
some?
All I ever think in these fantasy things, it's like, these people have bad breath.
Yes.
They have access to
Oh,
things
any
like
one
rats.
of them where like things get sexy, it's like everyone just smells so bad.
I would thrive in this environment. This is all for show, y'all.
Oh, but you don't-
This doesn't
you're not
work.
smelly.
What?
No, she
because I
can't
wouldn't
smell.
smell anyone. Well, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. I appreciate that vote of confidence. You're not stinky, but I would be around a stinker though and be like, this is fine. I don't know. Unless it was like an issue where like, you know when someone doesn't brush their teeth and you're like, why is your mouth wearing socks? Then that would be a problem. Glad we got into that.
Anyways, I'm
Is this good content? Is it? What's next?
Rick Bickmore says, some thoughts about Rings of Power. The black elf is Arondir. Arondir? I love seeing Galadriel feeling the exhilaration of riding all out on horseback. Glad you enjoyed that. It adds a nice, but... Oh,
I think
I
that's
think-
right. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. It adds a nice bit to her character for me. They're already compressing time in the story. Elendil was born over 1,000 years after the Rings of Power were forged, per Tolkien.
Come back down.
per Tolkien. In the series, they're not forged yet. I'm eagerly waiting to see what they do with this story.
Down is up and up is down. Sorry about that.
And I'll give them all 5 seasons to reveal it to me. Thanks for covering shows like this so we as a community can discuss them together with you. The rest of the crew and each other, bring on the filthy.
Oh, thanks, Rick. And thank you for that multi-parter supporting the channel on that
thank you,
level.
thank
That's really,
you.
really sweet. Well, and that's the whole thing too, right? Is even if we all don't agree on the show, even if we all have our different takes or we know a whole bunch of the lore or we just aren't feeling it, it's really nice when we all can just talk about it and come together as a community and share our thoughts in a really nice civil way. You guys are really awesome about
Yeah.
that, and we appreciate that.
Always appreciate
And I will
that.
say, just to add, like, this is also where adaptation, you have to have it changed a little bit because literally it took 70 years to finish forging all the rings. I don't want to see a series taking 70 years to forge the damn Rings of Power.
I want to see how it's made
It's
for the
fine to
next
compress
7
it.
years.
If it took 70 years in the lore, fine. But in this, it doesn't need to take 70 years.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Speaking of adaptation, Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Taylor. From Daniel.
From Daniel Vicura, I'd agree with John that the pacing isn't great. And I said last week, conversations go on too long where they need to be edited down. It reminds me of The Green Knight with unnecessarily long scenes.
Oh, I slept on The Green Knight. I didn't go check that out.
Yeah, me neither.
That was so good.
Yeah, I really wanted to see it.
Love me
I
some
love
Dev Patel, yeah.
All right.
Eric Thorpe reviews with the 2178 super chat.
Thank you, Eric.
So I'm liking the Rings of Power, but I think during dialogue scenes, it's actually pretty network TV looking visually in a way. A show like House of the Dragon still manages to feel somewhat cinematic during those types of scenes. Same with Game of Thrones. Anyone agree?
Ooh, I feel like this is really cinematic. I mean,
I feel like visually less interesting, certainly, but I also don't know if I want them to feel, you know, I don't want them doing nothing crazy.
yeah. I mean, sometimes there are very basic shots of this for like dialogue moments and stuff, but I
Yeah.
feel like we have so many sweeping camera things for establishing shots
Right.
that it does have that more movie feel to me. But also it is a television series, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought entering into like Numenor and when they did the stupid horse ride,
Yeah.
there was some really cool sweeping shots. I mean, yeah, there's a lot. So far, this episode's hard because a lot of it they were sitting on a raft.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then, and then, so there's some like, and the Harfoots, you're not going to get a lot of like, it's closed in. They're in a little burrow.
Yeah.
And So yes, and even that prison that the orcs have the elves in, it is another little burrow. So I'm sure we'll get there. I thought all the shots in last episode in the mines were awesome.
They were really cool. Well, I love this costuming too. The use of skulls to shield them from the light and
The
everything.
orcs look great too. Genuinely very
They
scary.
look so good. And this is why too, like, gosh, practical effects, practical makeup, so good. My big issue with the Hobbit films was the use of CGI for like the like goblins and stuff. And it's so cool to see something that feels like a real threat and feels so realistic and lived in, like these orcs. Oh, I love it.
All right, you guys, that's it.
That's it. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for writing in and hanging out with us today. We can't do these after shows without you because without you, we have very little to discuss. It's just us sitting in a room and we can do
Trying
that
to think of
whenever.
names.
Yeah, trying to remember names and not let my Southern accent screw them up too bad. So thank you so much for being here. I want to thank everyone in the room. We had Taylor running things today.
Yeah,
Thank you, Taylor. Jonathan, too, making sure we all didn't go up in flames. Thank you, Jonathan. Amy Newman, thanks for being here. Any closing thoughts? Anything you're hoping to see next week?
I just need some kissing.
Well, hopefully next week we get some sweet, sweet elf smooches. Until next time, y'all, have a good one.